very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sean.
This is Alex.
And you're listening to another episode of Coast of Kings Radio. Last week's episode was no episode because we were at Disneyland Paris.
We're going to talk about why there was no episode.
This is the whole reason there was no episode. It's because
we had the time of our lives.
We had a good 5-day trip. We went to Paris. We did 4 days at Disneyland Paris. It was all really cute, and the weather was very cold. But that made it more magical.
We had a variety of different weather conditions to
It was true. It was cold generally speaking. I will say it was cold every day. Yeah. But we went from sun to rain.
We had some nice
snowing and no daylight.
Frost.
But it was a really good trip. So we're just gonna take all of you with us on our magical journée on our latest Disneyland Paris trip, which is our longest one we've ever done. Usually we do 3 day trips.
I don't think we've ever done a consecutive
4 days in a row. It was almost hard
trip.
Because with our pass type, which is the Magic Plus, you can only have 3 reservations at a time, and so we're just used to just having a reservation for for the parks for each day that we're going.
Yeah, once we went in,
and we were like,
okay, now we can make a reservation.
We need to make sure we got to make a reservation for the last day as soon as we enter for the first day.
Fortunately, day 4 was a Tuesday, so
it wasn't that busy at all.
That makes it easy.
So we start our day here in Orlando. I had just gotten back. Well, actually, I had a couple days off because. I was able to get some PTO, so it was nice. I was home for a couple days, and then Alex was in Amsterdam for a quick layover on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then the day after Thanksgiving, we went straight to Paris. We went through...
we made it work.
We did make it work.
The travel days, but when you first pitched this trip time idea to me, I was like, you want to travel on Thanksgiving weekend?
Well, the nice thing was that the day after Thanksgiving, early in the morning, nobody was really traveling.
Friday after Thanksgiving.
So it was super easy.
Fine. And then by the time we came home, it was Wednesday after Thanksgiving. So, we really shot the gaps with historically busy travel days. So it ended up being perfect. I would totally do this exact thing again.
Yeah, it worked pretty well because usually we take Delta, but this time we took United. There was plenty of seats going to New York and then to Paris. So it worked out pretty well. And then what we do usually when we go to Disneyland Paris is we stay in the Val d'Europe, which is just one train or one RER train stop away from the actual park. It's super convenient. So what we do when we get to Charles de Gaulle, the airport, we just take the TGV, the bullet train, to Disneyland Paris directly, which is nice. It's only 8 to 10 minutes, kind of depending on which one you take.
Mm-hmm. And
then when you get there, you ride in the same train station. You just hop on the metro or the RER rather, and then that usually it runs really consistently, every 10 minutes. Later in the day or early in the day, maybe every 30 minutes. But by the time you get there, it's usually already on the 10-minute schedule. So you just wait for a train real quick, jump on, and then 3 minutes later, you're in Val d'Europe. And our hotel is right next to the train station that we usually stay at. It's the Moxie. It's one of the Marriott brands. And they always take really good care of us. They're nice rooms.
We've stayed at so many Moxies now.
We've stayed at so many Moxies. But we always end up staying at this Moxie. This one opened...
brand identity.
This one didn't open that long ago.
The Moxie. We've stayed at 7 or 8 Moxies now.
Yeah, and this one opened last year.
And we always seek them out for that
reason. We always seem to stay here now. So we stayed there. It was great. It's super convenient because you just get up, roll on the train, and then 5 minutes later you're at Disney. I find it even more convenient than using some of the partner hotel shuttles and stuff. So we did that for our whole 4 days. And on the last day, we just took an Uber back to the airport. Pretty convenient. First day we got there, usually I like to take a nap because I'm tired. But that's because our last couple of trips, I've gotten back from Europe and then turned straight around to go back to Europe. And by the time I get to Paris, I'm just so tired. But this time, I wasn't working or anything, so I was just a passenger and it was easy. And so by the time we got to Paris, I was actually kind of full of energy. So we went straight out. We got to our room, we got changed, took a shower, whatever we had to do. And then went out and went straight to Disneyland.
The weather was really good that day. That our arrival day was actually the best weather forecast day.
It was still around freezing.
It was
it was cold,
day.
but it was sunny.
Kind of clouds. Yeah. We're this is going to be a pretty day. Let's take some pictures. This was going to, we wanted to take advantage of the sunniness. And it was also going to be the busiest day because it was Saturday. So we knew we weren't going to, and we knew Monday and Tuesday the parks would be dead. And the lines.
It was busy. Because I still remember we had to wait. Pirates of the Caribbean in Paris, they got so creative with that queue because they have all these hidden little queue spots. And oh my god, we had to wait through the whole thing. It moved fairly fast, but I don't think I ever waited through quite as many switchbacks as I did for Paris for Pirates that day.
Yeah. But yeah, we just wanted to take advantage of like the nice weather for that first day, or like pretty weather, because it was definitely cold, but we wanted to take advantage of the sunlight because the forecasts didn't call for a lot of sunlight during our trip. It ended up being a lot nicer. It ended up being a lot sunnier than forecasted, which was
it was
really
blue skies.
fortunate.
It was nice.
Sunday was supposed to be. Was it Sunday that was supposed to be?
Sunday was going to be overcast.
Overcast.
It was going to rain on
pretty
Monday.
sunny, and then Monday was rainy. But Monday ended up being awesome because we had our rain gear and we rode lots of stuff. But like, we'll get to that.
So yeah, but let's kind of run through chronologically. So usually we always have dining reservations for the restaurants, but there were quite some restaurants closed, unfortunately, especially Silver Spur I like to go to. They usually have availability, got a good vegetarian, vegan option. It was right by Fontainebleau.
Silver Spur, Last Chance, and Lucky Nugget are three restaurants. Last Chance is like a small counter service, like an outdoor counter service. Lucky Nugget and Silver Spur are sit down, and the Lucky Nugget is like a dinner show. Like it has a show component to it historically.
I don't know if this one does. I think this one,
because it's got like a stage and stuff.
I've
never been in there, but it's like all the Frontierlands have that kind of like saloon type thing.
But yeah, anyway, so a lot of restaurants were closed.
All 3 were closed.
So we ended up not having a lot of dining availability, and it was fine. We actually did just kind of like a quick service trip, which kind of opened us up to some more quick service options than we usually do.
Yeah,
because I usually am big on doing table service when we go to Paris, and every trip historically we've done a lot of table service, at least one or sometimes 2 a day. But this trip was different. We actually did a lot more quick service, which was fun because they had a new Coca restaurant or whatever. But we'll get into that.
Usually we have a lot of criticism for Disneyland Paris's food. Like, even though Disneyland Paris is our favorite park in the world, like, no park is perfect. And, like, we know some parks struggle with certain qualities more than others. And Disneyland Paris has, like, a history of struggling with food, whether it's, like, finding variety, satisfying dietary restrictions, or just operating schedules, like finding restaurants that are open that aren't like completely overwhelmed with guests during like later hours or earlier hours in the day. But like exploring some of the quick service stuff that we normally don't make time for, we were actually pleasantly surprised with some of the stuff that we found. So,
and it was the holiday season, so there was a lot more seasonal stuff going on. Anyway, so of course the first thing we had to do was go ride Hyperspace, but then we get there and it's down.
That's right. Okay.
So of course our first ride ended up being Star Tours, which is the most mundane ride. But the funny thing was, I think when we got there, it said it was temporarily down or something, but they hadn't cleared the queue yet, and so we went to Star Tours, and we walked pretty much straight into the building, and then we waited through the whole indoor queue, but by the time we left, the queue was crazy. I mean, they had used all the switchbacks. They were setting up temporary switchbacks because they had just cleared the queue for Hyperspace.
Oh, yeah.
And it was busy. It was Saturday. So all the rides had long lines. All the switchbacks were full for Hyperspace. So all those people went to Star Tours. We hit that ride at the right moment because it went up to an hour, even though we waited 20 minutes.
We timed our Star Tours ride perfectly.
And then when we got to the exit store, they had the whole new merch collection for Star Wars Hyperspace Mountain out, and that was important to us because obviously we love that ride and it's in our top favorite rides in the world. And they finally have a nice little curated merch collection for it, which hasn't happened since they launched it. They've had an occasional pin or a keychain or a photo frame, but they haven't had a designated merch line.
I feel like all this time they were never going to launch merch for it because it was temporary.
But now I guess they've stuck. They've obviously stuck to the Hyperspace thing.
Year 7, and they're finally okay, we're going to do some merch for this because really, I think it would have gone by now if it weren't if COVID hadn't happened, and if the reaction from the public for that ride is so strong.
I mean, the lines are getting longer and longer.
Enthusiasts love to hate, whether they're American enthusiasts or French enthusiasts or whoever, but people, it seems that in the blogger sphere, Hyperspace Mountain in Paris is something that everyone loves to hate, and there's perfectly valid criticisms of it. Every time somebody says that they hate the overlay because it clashes with the theme, it's this, that, and so I get that, and we're inclined to agree. but we also just love it for what it is. With, considering, like, in the back of our minds, knowing that it's not going to be forever.
Right.
But, like, the public, the non-blogosphere general public love that overlay so much. The response is so positive that, why would they change it? They don't have incentive to change it prematurely if people are so content with it. So
yeah, we see all this merch, and they have a lot. They had these hyperspace mounts, mugs. They had these windbreaker jackets, a backpack, a giant poster, T-shirts, 2 kinds of T-shirts. So suddenly there's a whole Star Wars hyperspace mountain merch line. So we got some of that stuff, especially because it was windy and it was kind of cold. So it was kind of nice to put an extra layer over us to help break that wind a little bit. So we actually right away wore our new hyperspace mountain windbreakers.
Yeah, we realized
it was a vibe for when we finally got the ride.
We were kind of underdressed. Like, even though we knew it was going to be sunny, we knew it was cold, but we were like, okay, like, we wore 2 or 3 layers.
No, the real feel was significantly cooler than the actual temperature.
We didn't have like a thick overlayer, so we had T-shirts and Spirit jerseys on, and then putting the windbreaker over the top of it ended up being totally perfect. So that worked out really nicely. And I love Star Traders. I love that gift shop. It's like the nicest of all of the Star Tours exit gift shops.
Yeah, it is really nice. If you look up, which a lot of people don't do, there's actually
cool.
giant star speeder docked in like a docking bay up there.
It's so
But I didn't realize
so
until today, and I've been there so many
there.
times. Yeah.
Because all the other Star Tours gift shops are like relatively straightforward, single story for the most part. I mean, they've all had, Anaheim's used to, like, the People Mover went through it, so like that was really cool. And Hollywood Studios is another one where you kind of come down from the second story and like descend into the shop, which is neat. But Paris's is the best. And now they had this amazing hyperspace mountain like corner that just like intercepted us, like stopped us in our tracks, and we immediately went shopping. Like
first thing we did was ride Star Tours and then shop.
Yeah,
unusual.
We're in such a mess. and well, part of the reason Star Tours was so attractive to us because by the time we got to Space Mountain, we were like, we're cold. Like, we are very cold. Our hands are cold, our ears, and once we saw that Star Tours didn't have a line that extended outside, we were like, let's just ride Star Tours and warm up, and we'll be glad that we did. And then the windbreakers came, and we exited our first ride of the trip with like
merch,
and prepared. Like, we were ready. We were like in better shape than we were when we started.
And then hyperspace was actually down for a while, so we actually left the area and went all the way over to, what was it what we did next? Did we do Pirates next?
Yeah, I think we did Pirates
next.
Because I was still kind of cold. I was like, let's go through Fantasyland and warm up Pirates.
And
Pirates
so I will say that for this whole trip overall, the first couple days, there were definitely some effects not working on some of the rides where I was like, oh, it's, like the swinging pirate wasn't working, or, like little things weren't working. But then on our last day of the trip, the park, I don't know, they were hosting some sort of convention. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like the weekend there was no maintenance around or less maintenance around.
I liked your theory that...
But like on Monday, maybe like they'll come in on Monday and, because it's France and worker laws are different. And
Sean's theory was that the maintenance departments like to take the weekend off, like as
not
as
completely, but just like for like big project fixes, because then on Monday
everything was spick and span.
Well, on Monday it wasn't. On Monday there was still a lot broken, but then on Tuesday it seemed like everything was fixed. Yeah. It was like suddenly it was like a whole different park. Like everything on Big Thunder was working.
Yeah.
Everything on Pirates was working. Like everything was just working everywhere, and that was unusual. So we did Pirates, and then we did Indiana Jones, which in the winter doesn't have the fire effects on, which is kind of sad, but I kind of get it. Maybe it has to do with that like whole gas thing they're doing. Remember?
Yeah, they're also the gas lights are also turned off in the arcades
because of
like the gas crisis. Anytime there's like war happening, I don't think the gas lights have been on since it's been a while.
Well, they're not on because of the gas from Russia, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what yeah. So basically, anytime there's war happening, the gas lights are turned off. So like we get that.
I mean, anytime there's war happening, there's always war happening.
Anytime there's war happening in Europe.
No, I just think it has to do with the fact that they're not getting gas from Russia anymore.
So. And that's what I mean.
But anytime war is happening.
Anytime war is happening, fuel is like the point, because this is the world that we live in.
Oh, okay.
It's a fuel shortage. Okay. Fuel shortage commentary.
Sure. And so then we went next door, actually, I think before we even went back to ride Hyperspace, because we wanted to check out Flight Force with its new effects.
Yes.
Because earlier this year, they added effects to Flight Force. We already kind of liked Avenger Campus Flight Force. Avengers Assemble Flight Force. No lies, because it just runs so much faster than Rock and Roller Coaster does in Orlando. And it has a really sci-fi-ish modern feel and look. And it was in a completely pitch black building,
and
which
the queue was awesome.
The usually indoor roller coasters from Disney are like heavily. There's projections. There's a lot going on to the point where like it's not very dark. But that thing was just pitch black, and I kind of enjoyed that aspect of it. However, it already had a couple of scenes, and a lot of people were saying it wasn't enough because it was very screen based. And now they updated it, and they added in a bunch of star projectors. Which works really well because the way they project are also on the track, so it really looks like it's 3D. Like, it's not just the outside of the building that has stars projected on it.
I kind of missed the pitch blackness of it because it was so scary, but the stars make a lot more sense, canonically.
Especially because
we're in space.
And the whole queue has, like, just, like, every video you watch in the pre-show and the queue has the stars in it, so it kind of makes sense that on the ride
it's kind of baffling that it didn't have the stars, like the mirror ball stars from the get-go.
So it actually doesn't use a mirror ball.
Is it just little light projections?
It is. It's not those laser projectors where it's just like a light beam that goes.
Yeah.
So they're not using the disco ball like they're doing on Hyperspace Mountain, for example. They really have like a special setup where it's like a bunch of lasers just like shooting outward. I don't know if it's cheaper to do like that, but it looks really good.
Well, it's probably just more modern and reliable, and it looks really sharp.
It looks a lot more pronounced. Like it looks like the stars are brighter,
it's very crisp,
but the room around it doesn't feel more lit up by it. I think if you project light onto a mirror, there's just so much light happening that isn't actually pollution. The stars. Exactly. Yeah. And this time it just feels like it's completely black except for the stars. So it looks a lot better than I think traditional.
Like, we love Hyperspace Mountain, but there's definitely light pollution, and like we enjoy the light pollution because we're nerds and we love to see the track and stuff in the show building get eliminated by like ambient light, but Avengers Assemble does not have that at all. Like there is no ambient light, even when the screens are on. Like it's a very well achieved effect of black screens that do not emit light except for the animations on the screen.
Oh, totally. And now they also added in some of the turns they added panels with LED lights behind them that kind of imitates or represents Captain Marvel and Iron Man shooting past you. So with these three added elements, or these three added thematic scenes, things that they've added, it really does make for a lot different ride. We counted the scenes earlier because they reused some of the screens for several scenes, and I think they have a good 11 or 12 moments of significance on the ride now that are thematic. So I think we're in a perfect spot now with the ride where I don't think anyone should be complaining that there's not enough happening or it's whatever the complaint is. I think the ride, it runs fast. It's a thrilling ride. It's probably the most intense ride on resort. And
it's so
it runs
aggressive.
Well, and it has a bunch of thematic elements while also kind of keeping that darkness of space alive. I get the complaint that people are like, well, there's 2 now space-themed launched Vekoma roller coasters, which, again, was a very interesting choice for them. Because there once was a concept where it was going to be a Spider-Man-themed roller coaster with a giant city skyline, city streets, and you were just going to go in between the buildings in, a lit-up show building.
That's one we should add to our concept art.
Oh, yeah. Next
podcast.
Week's episode is a concept art-themed episode, so definitely tune in for that. And we'll add this to that list, and we'll talk about more about it in our next week's episode.
I've got pictures of that model somewhere that has the buildings and stuff, the bridges, various New York details, physical props. Kind of it's hard to imagine a bunch of physical props in that show building because the track and the supports are so tight. It's already pretty congested in there.
What else did we ride that day at Studios?
Did we do Phantom Manor that day?
We did do Phantom Manor that day.
We only rode 4 rides on the first day.
No, I think we did more than that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I rode everything at... Did we ride a lot of the stuff at the park, in the main park?
No, I don't remember riding that much on the first day. I mean, because it was busy. We didn't have... busy. We did get hyperspace on day one. I know we did, because otherwise we would have felt very differently about the day if hyperspace hadn't been possible.
Yeah, I think we rode most
on day one.
I know we rode... Did we ride Big Thunder that day?
No.
Oh, no, we didn't, because the line was seemed longer than expected.
Terrible.
But then we did do Coco's restaurant.
Yes, we went to... Okay, yeah, so we went to...
Miguel's, I guess.
Yeah, so the new Coco restaurant... It's not really a new restaurant, but the Mexican restaurant... It used to be Puerto del Oro,
and now it's the Coco...
Now it's...
Coco's Mexican restaurant.
It's like... what is it called? I guess we can look it up. We have the information. But it's a really cute... It's
called Casa de Coco now.
Casa de Coco.
If we're zooming on the map, it'll still say Puerto de Oro on it, though.
That's hilarious. So Puerto de Oro used to be like a buffet restaurant, and then all that aspect of it was shuttered, and then they like turned it into they wanted it to be like a cantina type thing. They ended up giving it a really nice decorative facelift with the Coco theme, including some like really impressive murals. Like the paint, the painters worked overtime in this re-theme. There's not a lot of physical changes. It's definitely like a soft reno, but as far as soft renos go, it's really nice.
It was cute, and the food is good. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's actually pretty decent.
I wish the menu had changed a little bit. There was there's like a new signature drink that is actually Coco themed, but that's it. There's nothing else that's actually themed to Coco.
So was this the day that we did Lion King Raiders of the Pride Land?
No, that was
the next day.
The next day.
All right, well then let's just launch into the next day, because I have a hard recollection of the first day.
We really didn't do that much the first day. We rode, I swear to God, we rode like 4 or 5 rides. I'm serious. I think we rode Star Tours, Pirates, Flight Force, and Space Mountain. I don't think we even rode Indy on the first day.
Oh.
I think we skipped it on the first day.
That's possible, because the lines were so long.
Because I think Indy had like a 45-minute wait, and like we love Indy, but not that much. Flight Force had like a 5-minute
in that case, let's jump into day 2, because that's when, I mean, that was it was an active day for us.
Yes.
So we got there early, and we roped, so with our Magic Plus Pass, which they've retired to Pass type now, but it's the old Gold Pass, we had early admission an hour prior to park opening for both parks, which is great. So we used that, and we got in, and we went straight to Frontierland to ride Big Thunder Mountain, which we got on, and then we rode it twice, I think, because the line still wasn't long when we rode it. And then we made the right decision because hyperspace was delayed. So after that, we went to... Was it Indiana Jones we did after that? I remember we were waiting for them to
Indiana
open
Jones,
it up.
waited for them to open it.
And so we rode that twice. It's Indiana Jones. I mean, I enjoy it when we ride it, but I also find the trains a little uncomfortable. I will say, though, people that say that Raging Spirits is that much better are lying. Because Raging Spirits, even though I think it has a bit more of like a high-quality theming, the big temple in the middle of Indiana Jones is still more impressive to me than the bare wooden structures.
The infield props on Indiana Jones are really cool and pretty underrated. And I love, like, when you dive into the loop, there's that great head chopper. There's an awesome head chopper right before the loop that, like, Raging Spirits does not have. Also, Raging Spirits is, I mean, it's a more palatable ride. It's smoother. It's slower. The pacing is definitely affected. It has magnetic trim brakes throughout. When Indy trims you, there's, like, one part of Indy where the trim brakes actually are on, and it's definitely, like, a harsh pinch brake. And then some of the hills and stuff, things are like the sharpness of drops and things are engineered differently, engineered, smoothed out, ironed out on Raging Spirits. So it's overall just a gentler ride. That's still a lot, I think, for the average Tokyo Disney guest, because Tokyo Disney's rides are pretty gentle. They're not big on like stretching your body to its limits the way that Disneyland Paris is with some of their rides. But we love Indy. I love every time I ride it. I just laugh, like I'm just like giddy with the rambunctious, the squirreliness of it.
And that was also the day that we did Lion King Straight Over the Pride Lands, which is their Lion King show. And shout out to Sven, which I think a couple episodes ago we did episode with Sven, maybe in our last episode. where we talked about his trip to Walt Disney World for the first time, and he was mentioning how the Animal Kingdom Lion King show was so disappointing compared to the Parisian one. And we always knew that the Parisian one was very popular because the lions were always so crazy to go see that show that we actually had never seen it.
Yeah.
And we had actually seen other shows more frequently at that resort. But this time we're like, all right, then it's going to be the show this trip we have to watch. And I was incredibly impressed because Lion King Riddle to the Pride Land is a musical, live music interpretation of the movie by only using the songs, but it's like live drums, dancing, acrobatics, but it's all very profound. Like, it's really beautiful African clothing, dresses, costumes, like all it was awesome. Like, I really enjoyed how profound that show was.
It's definitely like a Broadway level Lion King experience.
Vocals were incredible.
Stage design,
stage moved, but it was none of it seemed like it was like cirky or tacky or over the top. It wasn't like, you know,
it was
anything.
Very sophisticated.
Yeah, it was so sophisticated,
very distinguished.
It's, I think, my favorite Disney show ever. It like an
definitely too highbrow for like the Walt Disney World crowd. Like, it's obvious why Festival of the Lion King is the show that it is, because Rhythm of the Pride Lands feels like it is geared towards adults. That show is for people who were kids when The Lion King was in theaters, and Festival of the Lion King is for kids who are kids now that maybe haven't even seen The Lion King yet. Like, there's definitely a change.
Yeah, the Animal Kingdom one is very lighthearted and it's very, family focused. But then Prisoner of Pride Land, there is, like I said, such a sophistication. It's very adult.
There was a lot of adults with no kids in there. Like, it was.
It was a very large adult audience.
It was a millennial affair.
Beautiful show, absolutely beautiful. I think, like I said earlier, I think it's my favorite Disney stage show ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
We almost saw it again, but like the benches are not very comfortable. My butt fell asleep while we were watching.
Having a problem with that. But I think the problem is that it's so popular that if you want a good seat, you have to be there. I would say even up to an hour before the show starts. Yeah. And you have to wait outside in the cold.
It was cold.
And it was cold. It was winter.
So cold.
And you have to just stand there and wait until they let in certain groups. You can buy front of the line seating. You can buy reserved seating for $18 a person, I think, which isn't terrible if you really want to see it. But I don't know if I was really down to spend $36 to see it again, and without having to wait. So, yeah, that is that. Well, what did we do after that? I know that we did Phantom Manor that day. We had already done.
There was one day,
Thunder.
Day 3, we did Phantom Manor twice because we were like, felt like we were slacking. We were not getting adequate Phantom Manor experience, which you can never get enough of Phantom Manor. That ride is just so beautiful and perfect. And although it's funny, we were lamenting about like all the things about Phantom Manor that makes it so special and unique to Paris's. The Phantom, Constance, his daughter, all of the suitors that mysteriously died, which are foreshadowed and reflected by the portraits in the stretching room. And then you have the 4 singing busts in the crypt toward the end of the ride, which are geographically, I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, I guess sequentially in the same place that they are in the other Haunted Mansion rides, just about, where the singing heads, one of which is Walt, are singing the Grim Grinning Ghosts song. And I was explaining to Sean how, like, that wasn't always there. That was an addition.
Yeah, because they added it right before I wrote it for the first time. Because my first visit to DLP, believe it or not, was it 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2018, and then it was down for like a major refurb. And then when we wrote again, it was 2020, early 2020, and it had reopened with its new scene.
That opened with there was a lot of changes made during that 2018-2019 remodel, and it was a well-received remodel. And one of the things that they did was they added the singing busts, I believe. Because I wrote it in 2015, and I don't remember the singing busts and like the whole Grim Grinning Ghosts singing. It was an instrumental. Like when you go through the ghost town and stuff, and like the instrumental Grim Grinning Ghosts playing in the background, I think that's always been like that. But I'm pretty sure the singing busts were added later. And now when you think about it, it's obvious because they just don't fit with like the crypt.
Well, yeah. So
You're
the
like,
problem is, and for me anyway, is that it's very much a Haunted Mansion edition, which is fine because Phantom Manor is very much a Haunted Mansion adaptation. However, the problem is that they're so focused on marketing now on those 4 busts that the whole premise of the ride, which is a very dark ride, really centered around the Phantom himself, is now kind of overshadowed by the 4 busts. And when you get down to the little ghost town and being underground in the crypt, whatever, they just feel kind of out of place. And they just launched a whole new merch line. And everything about the merch line is like, it's purple and green with the 4 busts. But then it says
and
Phantom
Madame
Manor.
Leota.
And I'm like, all of this is just screaming Haunted Mansions, which is fine. But Phantom Manor is a completely unique theme with a really creepy phantom and his weeping daughter and all the guys that she tried to marry that he killed off. And it's in this really old ghost town Wild West house.
Yes.
And the theme is so different, and it's such an elevated experience that why are we focusing marketing-wise on the copies of the Haunted Mansion stuff, which is the only part of the rides that are not unique? It's like the 4 busts and
Madame Leota.
Yeah. And, and the color scheme of the wallpaper. That's the only thing that isn't unique to this ride, and that's what they're focusing on. And it almost feels like someone in an office in the United States was in charge of marketing and designing.
It was the Spirit jersey,
and
remember?
They just took the Spirit jersey.
Because I was like, oh, maybe we should get the Spirit jersey because it says Phantom Manor on it, which is really cool. That's like something I would be proud to wear around because Phantom Manor, I think, is really underrated. People have no idea that there is a Haunted Mansion version in Disneyland Paris that has its own story and its own theme and its own vibe and its own characters. But then the Spirit jersey, which is objectively a nice Spirit jersey. We love Spirit jerseys. We're Spirit jersey collectors. We have a whole closet. It's a sickness. But the Spirit jersey does not reflect Phantom Manor at all in any way other than the fact that it says Phantom Manor on it. Because so much of the focus is on, like Sean said, the components of Phantom Manor that are intact from the original Haunted Mansion concepts. And I think part of that has to do with the movie. Remember how we were walking by the...
there was Haunted Mansion merch. I was like, it's the wrong part.
Sean's why is there Haunted Mansion merchandise for sale in this park? And I'm like, both of us, we were confused. And then it dawned on me, it's the friggin' movie. It's because the Haunted Mansion movie is out. And, I'm sure it was... The movie was not exactly a box office success, but it was well liked by fans of the ride, as far as I could tell. And I'm sure there was a big marketing push for it in Paris, just like when Jungle Cruise came out. Do you remember all the Jungle Cruise ads in the subway and stuff for when the movie came out? When we took the Aria through the city? Yeah. And it was interesting because it was Disneyland Paris doesn't have a Jungle Cruise for various reasons. But there was still a huge marketing push for it in France, probably because they're, Disney people in France and throughout Europe are probably familiar with the ride and the concept, and many have probably been to Walt Disney World and ridden the Jungle Cruise there. But I digress. It was just it's interesting the direction that they've gone with the merchandise for Phantom Manor. Just like how they have Hyperspace Mountain merch. This was the year that Disneyland Paris really discovered ride-specific merch. They've always had a little bit of ride merch, but this year they've launched whole lines of ride merch. There's Big Thunder Mountain, Tower of Terror, Hyperspace Mountain, Phantom Manor, Pirates of the Caribbean, Small World, Alice's Curious Labyrinth, Indiana Jones. They have extensive lines of merch that are specifically themed to their rides and not just a style or name or what have you. But then the only problem is that Phantom Manor's merch line just is way too grounded in the Anaheim and Orlando versions of the ride, which is a shame because Phantom Manor deserves to have its own merch identity and the wild westiness of it and the color palette of that particular ride. If the Phantom Manor merch really reflected the ride, the Paris ride, in the styling, the Wild West styling and the colors and focusing on Constance and the the Phantom, like we'd be all over it. But it's just not the world we live in, I guess.
Unfortunately. But speaking of merch, I guess we can pop in real quick and talk about some of the other merch they've added. So they added Pirates of the Caribbean merch, which I did get a Pirates of the Caribbean beanie.
The hat is so cute, and it's definitely specifically Paris's Pirates of the Caribbean because it's got that round castle turret that is sort of like the weenie for the attraction that is unique to Disneyland Paris, because the other Pirates rides either don't have a castle facade, or like in the case of Shanghai, the castle is more of like a trapezoid shape. It doesn't have rounded, like cylindrical castle turrets like the one for Paris. So I love that for rides like Pirates of the Caribbean, at least, what they could have gone with more generic U.S. themed styled merch like they did with Phantom Manor, but they actually went with stuff that
was really
distinctly the Paris ride.
Paris specific. And then the Hollywood Tower Hotel merch is really, really nice too.
Beautiful.
They've got sweaters. They've got
that's true. Notice how he said Hollywood Tower Hotel merch and not Twilight Zone Tower of Terror merch.
It's all themed to Hollywood Tower Hotel, not themed to the Twilight Zone. Though, we got a really cool baseball tee. Is that what it's called? Baseball tee? And
it's so pretty.
On
I
the
took
back
a picture of it before we bought it.
Embroiderment of the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and half of it, it's kind of like a Twilight moment, because half of it is like a dark, destructed version of the hotel.
It's split right down the middle.
And the other half is a beautiful sunny California day, and the other half is like lightning and rain and a broken elevator shaft.
We're looking at it right now.
So, but it's gorgeous because it has no branding of the Twilight Zone on it, which even though it's still on the ride and they redid all the stories and stuff, it was just a really, really gorgeous merch and really high quality. So even though it was a lot of money, we actually bought it because, first of all, we can wear it into the other parks that have Hollywood Tower hotels or had.
It's funny seeing something so breezy and so, like, not only is the shirt really well themed and well designed, but the style of the shirt is
California.
Distinctly Los Angeles. A baseball tee, like a button-down baseball tee.
It's giving Dodgers, but Hollywood Tower.
You would never see something like this for sale in Paris because the weather is almost never appropriate for this kind of garment.
Well, I would say from May to September, it's hot as shit. But
it's still, like, people in Paris just don't wear this kind of stuff. But this is, like, it's such a well-themed piece of merch that the actual type of garment is part of the theme. It's part of the style of the ride merch because there's something about the way that the shirt is designed and cut just screams California.
I'm still surprised they just picked those 4 rides to give, like, new merch lines. However, they also expanded on the merch for the Adventure Campus stuff. So now Flight Force has more merch. There's a Flight Force hoodie. There's a Flight Force shirt. There's Flight Force hats, wallet. There's a lot of Flight Force stuff, which I enjoy. But we already had spent so much money. There was no need to buy even more. I want to jump back to Discoveryland real quick. And first of all,
of course you do.
Discoveryland, the entrance has that big globe, kind of like the celestial thing. That's all spinning now, which is nice. And then when you go to Orbitron, the spire and all its planetarium-looking things that are around it are all spinning and rotating again, which is the first time in a long time. So that's really nice.
That thing is hypnotic.
And last but definitely not least, they reopened the Nautilus after refurbishments, and we went down into the Nautilus, and it's been closed throughout the pandemic, and it was just so amazing.
God bless the Nautilus.
Yeah, the Nautilus was really, really fun.
Such a cool attraction.
I still think there should be the queue for their expansion.
This is a bit of a tangent, but the Journey of Water, inspired by Moana, just opened at Epcot. Well, it didn't just open. It's been open for a little while, but we went through it, and there's been a lot of criticism about this attraction. And again, I would say that a lot of it is valid. It's valid to say that, like, new attractions coming to Disney World need to have more substance than a walk-through attraction. However, I would say that this kind of attraction reminded us a lot of Disneyland Paris because it's a very detailed, well-curated walk-through experience that is really enjoyable. Like, not everything has to be a ride. Epcot needs rides, and it needs better rides. The rides that it has, a lot of them need to be improved dramatically, and they also need more. So when Epcot gets something that is not a ride, I understand why people are griping about it. But I would say that for what it is, Moana is a really cool attraction, and it captures, I think, the best essence of some of Disneyland Paris's walkthrough attractions, which are like a signature component of the experience. Like, you really haven't experienced Disneyland Paris if you have not done the Nautilus, the Dragon's Lair in Sleeping Beauty Castle,
the fort at Frontierland,
the Frontierland Fort, or the Pirates Isle or Adventure Isle. All of the
Adventure Isle has like 3 major walkthrough attractions.
Yeah, because it's got like
about 4 because they have all the rock walkthroughs.
The Swiss Family Treehouse. And then, of course, I think their most famous is the Curious Labyrinth. Curious Labyrinth.
That also got a merge line.
So
which is surprising.
There's like every area in Disneyland Paris has a really, a massive walkthrough experience. Not just like a walkthrough, like a garden or just something nice looking, but like an attraction, like a fully fleshed out attraction that you experience on foot, and it's a total vibe. And now Epcot has something like this that is super cool.
Oh yeah, it's very deal.
And I think that deserves a lot of
Animal
credit.
Kingdom, because Animal Kingdom has the walkthroughs too.
Yes.
We did one last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this also the day that we did Casey Jr.? Or was that
No, that was later.
But this was the day.
We can talk about them.
Was this the day we had glue wine? And you had your pretzel?
Wasn't that the rainy day? I know. This is what happens when you go to Disneyland Paris for 4 consecutive days.
Anyway, I guess we could just act like it was the day.
But we enjoyed it so much. We were leaving. We were like, we were like very satisfied. But I'm like, I could have done a 5th day.
Oh yeah, it was weird. Like usually I
never truly get my fill of Disneyland Paris.
Well, the nice thing about during Christmas is, like, we'll talk a little bit about some of the Christmas stuff, is that they just brought back the Adventures Power Tonight show like yesterday, which is unfortunate because we missed it during our week. We've seen it before a couple times, but it's a good show, and I
we actually pussied out on all of the nighttime shows because it was too cold. We are warm-blooded creatures, and like doing the cold stuff in the daytime is one thing, but
it's not entirely true. We saw the nighttime parade for Christmas.
But it was, we were freezing cold, and we bailed right after because we were just cold.
It was cold.
That was day 2.
And I'll be honest, I don't really care much for the Christmas parade. I think the song is really awkward, and I feel like there's not a lot of creativeness when it comes to their costumes. I mean, they're really beautiful, but oh my god, it's all the same.
The best quality of the parade is the floats, and some floats are better than others. The best float is that Bavarian German sculpture-looking float.
It's funny, though. Generally speaking, I consider Disneyland Paris with their nighttime shows, their drone shows, which is big for them, like 2 drone shows, and their stage shows are so high quality. I consider the entertainment to be top notch, especially during the 30th with Shine Brighter.
Oh my god!
But this is the one parade I just don't really care for.
Yeah,
I just don't really care for it.
The biggest issue with the Christmas parade at Disneyland Paris is that Dream and Shine Brighter exists, or it existed.
Yeah.
Because the music for Dream, the soundtrack for Dream and Shine Brighter, the area music, and then the song Ready for the Ride, there has never ever been better show exclusive curated music than for Dream and Shine Brighter. And I thought we were just simping. I thought we were just simps. And then every time we've talked about Dream and Shine Brighter with other people who have seen Dream and Shine Brighter, they're like, oh yeah, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
For Christmas, they also had 2 Christmas markets, one at each park, which pretty much sold the same stuff. But the one near Small World was really Small World themed. So a bunch of them would call it little houses, and they had glue wine there, or what do we call it in America? Mulled wines?
Mulled wine. The kiosks were really cute, and the ones at the other park were in the Ratatouille, like the Paris area.
They were Parisian themed.
They had like a nice Paris theme.
So yeah, but historically they've had the Christmas markets in Walt Disney Studios over in the Parisian area. This is the first time I've been, and we usually go every winter, that we seen it in the regular park, the day park. It was nice.
I guess they just really needed the kiosks were really cute and looked brand new. And I guess they just needed the added restaurant capacity. And I think part of that has to do with the redevelopment of Disney Village. Because Disney Village is losing restaurants left and right because the whole area is going through a steady...
Rosalie's about to open up. I think it opens up on the 8th.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I just know, when they lost when they lost Planet Hollywood, they lost a huge chunk of their restaurant capacity for Disney Village, and by extension, they lost a measurable amount of restaurant capacity for the whole resort. And I don't know exactly what the story is with like the 3 Frontierland restaurants that were closed on our visit. It seemed suspicious. Like, it seemed weird that all 3 of those would be closed, because they've all 3 always been open on every visit that we've been on. And some of them are like staples. Like the Silver Spur is like a staple restaurant experience at the park. It's like one of the highest capacity dine-in restaurants on the whole property. And it was just odd that they were closed. But I guess I would just say that it's really great that they added the food festival kiosks to the Small World area of Fantasyland, because they were packed. They were busy. The food was really good, but it was also like they just really needed that food capacity right now because of the flux that they're in with Disney Village. I would say Disney Village plays a bigger role in the overall resort restaurant capacity than some of the other shopping districts within Disney resorts. Certainly more so than like Tokyo's, for example, which is just a glorified shopping mall. And maybe even more so than like Anaheim's, because their downtown Disney is also going through a transformation. I think
it's kind of on par with Shanghai Disney district.
Yeah,
Shanghai is just a lot nicer because it's all brand new.
So nice. Yeah,
and Disney Village is definitely very 90s. That is slowly getting redone, but all the concepts coming out, it's gonna be really nice. It's gonna kind of, and I think in a way, mirror the new lake that is coming to Walt Disney Studios when it comes to its classic, just yet Art Nouveau kind of aesthetic.
Yeah. It's gonna be natural inspired, but very French. Keeping it French, I think, will always serve them well, because whether it's French people celebrating their own culture and the fact that Disney is in Paris, or it's tourists going to Disneyland Paris as part of their French experience, like, it will always serve them well to look inward for stylistic choices. Sometimes it's hard to know like what direction to go in when it comes to styling new construction. I feel like Epcot is struggling with that. I don't feel like they know what they want to look like, because Epcot's whole theme modus operandi keeps changing. It's like a moving target. But for Disneyland Paris, you can always just make it French and it will work.
And then this is also the day we did the train, which is always fun.
Oh, yeah.
And we were just surprised. Not really surprised because it's been this way, but the sheer amount of like walk-around characters at this park.
Oh, yes.
It's like, it's more so than any other resort. It's just, they're walking around everywhere. They are, I feel like they have more liberty than they do in the States and in Japan to like, you know, like take take a cat, like a kid's head off, and then run away with it.
Jafar,
and then, Jafar.
This actually
Jafar had like all the sass, but it was good, and he was like
Jafar
he was always around.
Was doing the absolute most, and we were living. He took a kid's Mickey ears off and ran away with them, and then was like dangling it over their heads. And the kid was cracking up, but the parents were dying. They were rolling in the aisles. It was so
And there's so many character meet and greets. Everywhere you go, there's character meet and greets and people waiting. And it just kind of adds like an extra layer of immersion having all these characters walk around.
Disneyland Paris is extremely supportive of the character meet and greets. I wouldn't have necessarily pegged the Disneyland Paris audience for being meet and greet crazy, but like you could go to this park and every ride in the park has like a 45-minute wait or less. And then the meet and greet line for Winnie the Pooh is 2 hours. And that is consistent. There is consistently immense support of the character meet and greets. And Disneyland Paris's entertainment department is so strong, they really know how to ramp up that demand by responding to the demand. They've continued to add more meet and greets and more characters. They have some of the coolest. I mean, the meet and greet out in front of Phantom Manor has got to be one of the best, because they do like during Halloween they do Mickey and or Minnie in their Halloween get-ups. And Disneyland Paris doesn't do Halloween parties or Christmas parties, so like unlike those events in the U.S. parks where like it's a separate ticketed event and you see the costume characters in their like seasonal get-ups, Disneyland Paris allows you to see costume characters in their seasonal outfits during regular operating times.
Yeah, kind of like Hong Kong, yeah.
And the lines get crazy. So like when we were there, we've been there in the fall when they had Mickey and Minnie in their Halloween get-ups in front of Phantom Manor, and when we went this time, it was Jack Skellington dressed up as Sandy Claus. So needless to say, that had like a 2 to 3 hour wait periodically. And I mean, the demand for meet and greets is so high that it seems like they'll just put meet and greets anywhere. They've created meet and greet spaces out of just basic midway areas, like throughout Adventureland. There's one in front of Indiana Jones. There's 2 in the corridor that's adjacent to Adventure Isle.
Then you have Jafar over by Agrabah.
There was that Christmas Stitch meet and greet at the old mill in Fantasyland that they used the old infrastructure for the old mill Ferris wheel.
And then you have the year-round stationary indoor meet and greets like the Princess Pavilion and the Mickey Theater.
And that one is the only one that has the wait time listed on the app. And it's always
the Mickey one too. The one
the Mickey one.
Station.
Yeah, they have them, and it's on the app.
Yeah,
that one's usually like an hour, and then the Princess one is like 3 hours. It is insane, but I love that for them. I love that people. Oh yeah, we're looking at the app. It's
the reopened Princess Pavilion.
Is it? What time is it over there? Oh, yeah, it's the middle of the day.
No, it's not. It's like 5:10 p.m. The train just closed.
It's the middle of the day. They're open till like 10 o'clock.
I think it's just 9 today. But yeah, anyway.
But yeah, so we've never done any of the meet and greets, the character meet and greets for Disneyland Paris, because honestly the lines are always so long. But it's nice to see people like really into it and passionate about it, and seeing something that Disneyland Paris does so well get so much recognition and praise and love for what they're doing.
That's also day 2. So let's move on to day 3 real quick, which we did early entry at Walt Disney Studios, which was perfect because we pretty much did the entire park.
But we took that park down.
So we always want to do an early admission there at least once a trip, if not twice a trip, to get on Crush. Crush's Coaster will have a 2-hour line, like no matter the day. Like, it's so popular, and it's a really great little dark ride roller coaster. Very unique to Disneyland Paris Resort. So we rope dropped that, got on, I was thinking like less than 10 minutes. And then we got on Tower, we did Spider-Man, we did Avengers Assemble Flight Force, we did Cars Road Trip, we did Ratatouille,
Tower Terror.
We did all that before park opened. It was crazy. So we did all the e-tickets for sure for park open. In fact, yeah, we did all that route, and then at park open we jumped to the next park, and we still got in line for stuff without having to wait. So that was, I think, even though it was the rainy day, it was also, I think, the least crowded day.
Oh yeah, it was a great day.
We did everything so many times.
The rides.
But I mean, we were wet. I mean, it was raining all day. It was real feel was -2 degrees Celsius. It was really cold,
and it wasn't like,
and it was raining.
The park wasn't like empty per se, but the outdoor rides like Big Thunder, that was a great opportunity to get.
Yeah, because those were like 20 minutes.
Rides, Big Thunder had a short line because it was cold and it was wet. And
it was cold and very wet, yeah.
Like Space Mountain had a consistent wait of like 20 to 30 minutes because...
I mean, I had 4 layers on and I was still cold.
That was one... The rides where you could guarantee some time to warm up, rides like Star Tours and Pirates of the Caribbean and Space Mountain... Yeah. Where, like, waiting in line is a comfortable, warm experience as well as riding. Those rides had consistent waits throughout the day because people were just taking the opportunity to be in line and ride something and also warm up. But the outdoor rides, like, this was rare form for Big Thunder. I've never seen lines for Big Thunder so consistently short. On that
it was
rainy
like 5
day,
or 10 minutes sometimes in a day.
The line never extended out of the main covered switchback queue. It has a long... if you've ridden Disneyland Paris' Big Thunder, you know what we're talking about. It has a very long, scenic, and beautiful like outdoor queue that wraps around the ride's 4th lift hill and kind of makes its way all the way to the turnaround bend where it's about to face back into the station. And then you climb up, and then you go into like the covered switchback queue portion. On the rainy day, that switchback queue portion like was never totally full. Because it's drafty in there, and the ride is a cold experience.
Yeah, and we did the Molly Brown Riverboat that day, so that was nice. And we
the water effects for Splash Mountain, for Big Thunder Mountain, were still cranked up all the way, even though it was cold and rainy. And if you're in the second passenger car,
no, third passenger
overall.
Car.
Is it the third passenger car?
Third passenger car.
Oh yeah, because we were row 7.
Row 7.
So if you're toward the front, like 2/3 of that ride, like you can get wet on the splashdown portion of Big Thunder. It's fun that they don't...
Yeah, the new splash they added earlier this year is massive.
It's intense. Yeah. It's way more potent than it ever was. It's like a true simulated splashdown, and the way that the water bounces back off of the scenery when you first hit it, like, you'll get wet. Row 7 is a good spot if you're trying to get wet on that ride.
What did we do for food that day?
For that day, I know we did various. I think that was the day we did the waffles at Adventureland, the Mickey waffles with the Nutella.
Oh yeah, we did those that day.
Did we do? Was that the cheese? The cheese pie,
was the cheese quiche
day.
So good. So
at the Cable Car Cafe,
they have Kiri cheese themed products like quiche and pastries now in the Cable Car Cafe.
Kiri is a European brand of cheese products.
They elevated the pastry game in that bakery. Oh my god, it used to be pretty mundane, especially for like Europe. We're like, really, this is the pastry game? But the pastry game got elevated with these new products.
The sandwiches improved
the best
too.
I've ever had. It was so good.
Because I got the Mickey veggie, like the veggie crudité and Swiss cheese on a Mickey Mouse pretzel. Very, very good. Yeah. And we also did the hot dogs either on that day or the last day. The hot dog.
The hot dogs. They have a good vegan hot dog.
It has a vegan sausage footlong.
I had Casey Jr. and then there was
Casey's.
Casey's
Casey's Corner, not Casey's Jr.
Corner. We did our porpoises. We did. What else did we do?
We did the Stark Factory
waffle.
Was Stark Factory?
We did Stark Factory like day 1 or day 2.
It was and that was really good. The pasta and pizza at that place was strong. I love
Stark Factory. I remember we went there like opening week. It was so good. And
they have nice salads. I really enjoyed the pasta.
Good pizza. Yeah,
it's a good comfort food. Like very good hearty.
Cool out.
And hearty food, good prices, good quality, and it's just hot and filling.
But we went back kind of early that day because it was raining all day. We were getting cold. So
your shoes were wet.
We had some food at the hotel. Yeah, I had to freaking air blow my damn shoes.
Yeah, we used the hair dryer.
It was so cold and rainy all day. But then the last day was great because actually we added this last day on kind of last minute because the flights just going back seemed better.
That was the day we really spammed the coasters.
And the last day I think we did the most. We got up early again. We made the mistake of going to Walt Disney Studios, but Crush Goes was unexpectedly closed for the whole day. So they had to do like last minute maintenance on it. So they had to put in like in the app the little icon for being closed for refurbishment. It was really only closed for one day. But we made a miscalculation there because we went there, but the real reason we went was actually Crush. So we ended up riding against Adventures, Assemble, Flight Force twice, and then we ran over to Studios, which we still had a good at Park.
Disney,
we still had a good 40 minutes at Park to do Hyperspace a couple times,
Big Thunder a couple times, and Indy,
and that all before Park opened. So we hit that first hour hard.
So we rode like 7 rides, all coasters, and we
did all the rides a lot, and it was just nice out. Like the weather, even though it was so cold, there was sun, which was nice. A couple
of Small World rides there toward the end.
Yeah, it was good, and I think overall it was one of my favorite visits. We bought some really cute merch. We really kind of gave a good tour of all of the quick service restaurants, which was nice. We actually rode every single ride at Walt Disney Studios that day.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We decided we wanted to say we had ridden. There's not that many rides.
But usually I don't really do like the kiddie, like the Dumbos.
Yeah, there's like some flat rides. We did the Slinky Dog.
Which was actually really good.
Slinky Dog, Spinner, the Himalaya
RC Racer, we
thing.
did.
I love RC Racer.
We did the little Cars.
The Cars
Spinny Ride.
Rodeo Rally or whatever it's called.
The Flying Carpets.
And the Flying Carpets.
Which is like the best Flying Carpets.
It's so cute. Also, for fans of Robin Williams and Robin Williams' portrayal of Genie, you got to do the Magic Carpets at Disney Studios because he has lines recorded specifically for that ride. Genie is in character as a director of a film, and you're a stunt performer doing the Magic Carpet. Yeah. And they're filming like that. I love that, right? Because it's definitely a convincing commitment to the
early theme,
the mission statement of the park, which is like the theme is movie making, instead of now the more simpler like being in the movies. Like,
and we got our 3 rides on Tower. We got all 3 shafts, which was nice.
Yeah, running great. Every time I ride 3 different versions, I have a hard time picking a favorite.
It was fun doing Spider-Man again because it was nice to get that done in an early mission.
We enjoy. I like the Spider-Man ride. I like it more every time I ride it.
I like it less than California Adventure. I like it a lot more in Walt Disney Studios Paris.
It's a really well loved ride in Paris because they never got Toy Story Mania, and like having Toy Story Mania in the same park as Spider-Man and Anaheim feels a little redundant. having it in studios when the resort never even got Toy Story Mania, it feels like a quantum leap from their other shooting dark ride, Buzz Lightyear. We also did Casey Jr. Little Circus Train, and that's a wonderful ride as always. That little corner, the Casey Jr. and Land of Make Believe, aka La Paille de Conte de Fille, that area needs some paint. It needs some readjustment. But I was reading, they announced, I guess, at some point this year. We missed it when it was officially announced. But they're going to do a remodel of that corner. They're going to add Frozen and some other. They're adding 2 new scenes.
Was it Lion King?
It may have, no, I think Lion King's already there. They're adding Frozen and another scene to La Paille de Conte de Fille, which is really great. And I hope, like, everything there. I can only assume, in Disneyland Paris being Disneyland Paris, that they're going to go through and add those scenes and, like, refresh everything and repaint everything. And that little corner back there will look amazing. It's really the only, like, major area of concern in the park where like things don't look fresh and new,
which is unusual.
Which is really unusual. It's like it's really blatant. The park is so good that when something is not perfect, it's like really obvious. So look forward to going back. Hopefully it'll be done and open by next year, by the next time we go.
And in that vein, we will wrap up this episode with a quick look at some of the stuff coming to the park and what they're working on. Mostly actually next door. Well, this is Studio 1 will close. I think it's sometime 2024.
Studio 1 is the entrance midway, the indoor.
They're going to reroute the entrance temporarily from like the little production courtyard studio area in the front of Studio 1 to go straight into the park. And they're going to build a little park in front of
the Hollywood Garden Party.
On the opposite side of Studio 1 and going into the new promenade that's going to go directly to the lake.
They've actually already started construction on it, which is looking great.
And they're going to redo the entire interior of Studio 1, which I think is my favorite Disney park entrance anyway. The park itself doesn't have a lot of substance, but the entrance is killer. They're adding a BMX show themed to Alice in Wonderland, which is going to the theater inside Adventure Campus, which, yes, we're scratching our heads.
It's such a choice.
Just as much. You're scratching your head. I just hope it's temporary, and then they're going to add a kick-ass Adventures stunt show, which I think they deserve. Because the theater is literally in Adventure Campus with Adventure Campus scaffolding. So, I mean, it better be temporary.
They really need to add something that will support the history of that venue with the Lights, Motors, Action being such an awesome, amazing show historically.
And then currently under construction is the new ride for Tangled, the new restaurant that's going to the lake itself, which will host grand new night shows. Rumor is that they're getting Fantastic from Disneyland Paris, from Tokyo Disney, because they bought all the floats from the Oriental Land Company. And the Frozen is, vertical. They're building the new Frozen land right now. So lots of stuff happening. There's going to be a new midway going from Cars into the new lake area as well. And then we'll have to yet to see if it's going to be Lion King or Avatar as the third new land around the lake. But we haven't gotten any official word on that. And I have a dentist appointment, so we're going to bounce. It was very nice having you listen to this brand new episode of Coast to Kings Radio. We'll see you next week for crazier rides, crazier concepts. Make sure to give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening. And we'll see you next week on Coast to Kings Radio. Bye.
Bye.